Okay, so picture this. You're sitting down to what you think is a super healthy breakfast. You've got your whole grain toast, maybe a couple of eggs, and right there beside it, a big old glass of orange juice. I mean, it seems perfect, right? A great vitamin-packed start to your day. But what if I told you that what your brain is seeing as fruit, your body is processing as something, well, something totally different? Let's get into it.
Right. So, your brain sees fruit, but what's your body seeing? That simple act of turning an orange into a glass of juice kicks off this whole cascade of changes before you even take a sip. So today, we're going to follow the science and really unpack the unfiltered truth about eating your fruit versus drinking it.
To really get the difference, we have to start at the beginning. We need to look at the actual structure of fruit itself and what happens to that structure the second we decide to turn it into juice.
All right, so here's a term that is absolutely key to this whole conversation: the food matrix. Think of it like the fruit's natural built-in architecture. It's this amazing fibrous scaffolding that holds everything together: all the water, the vitamins, and this is the important part, the sugar. This matrix is pretty much the unsung hero of whole fruit.
So what happens when we throw an apple or an orange into a juicer? Well, those blades don't just chop, they completely pulverize that food matrix. They just shred it, violently ripping apart all those cell walls and releasing everything that was once neatly tucked away. It's basically a complete demolition job on a molecular level.
And this right here shows you the biggest consequence of that demolition. The World Health Organization draws a really important line in the sand here. In whole fruit, you've got what are called intrinsic sugars. Think of them as being safely locked up inside that fibrous matrix. Your body has to actually do some work to break them down so you get a nice, slow, controlled release of energy. But juicing, that turns them into free sugars. They've been sprung from their fiber jail and are now just loose, ready for your body to absorb instantly, kind of like what you'd find in a can of soda.
Okay, so we've mechanically wrecked the fruit. What does that actually mean for your body once you drink it? Well, this one change has some pretty immediate and dramatic effects on everything from how full you feel to how your body deals with that sudden rush of sugar.
You know, the most immediate thing you'll notice is satiety, or just that feeling of being full. Let's be honest, you could probably down the juice of 3 or 4 oranges in less than a minute. But could you sit there and eat 4 whole oranges in that same time? Not a chance. The simple act of chewing and the physical bulk of the fruit send these powerful signals to your brain saying, hey, we're full down here.
And this isn't just a feeling. It is backed by some really solid research. In one classic study, they gave people either a whole apple, applesauce, or apple juice right before a meal. And the results? They were staggering. The people who ate the whole apple ended up eating way fewer calories at lunch. And the apple juice group? They ate the most. It's like our bodies just don't register liquid calories as actual food in the same way.
And the reason why is pretty simple. It all comes down to speed. How fast does this stuff leave your stomach? A whole apple, with all its fiber, hangs out in your stomach for about 65 minutes, slowly breaking down. But apple juice, foosh, it's out of there in just 38 minutes, which is almost half the time, leaving you feeling hungry again a lot sooner.
Now let's talk about the sugar spike. This number you see here, 13.4, that's the glycemic load of orange juice. Glycemic load is just a fancy way of measuring how much a food is going to raise your blood sugar. Now look at the number for a whole orange, just 6.2. The juice more than doubles the impact on your bloodstream. That is a massive metabolic difference from the exact same fruit, just processed differently.
So your body sees this huge, rapid flood of sugar from the juice as like a 5-alarm fire. And in response, your pancreas has to go into overdrive, pumping out a whole lot more insulin to try and get all that sugar out of your blood. Doing that day after day, breakfast after breakfast, well, that puts a ton of strain on your system.
And all that strain is what leads us to the long-term consequences. When you zoom out and look at these huge population studies, the story of whole fruit versus fruit juice really becomes a tale of 2 completely different health outcomes.
Just take a look at this table. It sums up findings from a ton of studies, and the pattern is it's incredibly consistent. A high intake of whole fruit is linked to a decreased risk of things like type 2 diabetes, weight gain, and hypertension. But for 100% fruit juice, the story completely flips. It's linked to an increased risk right across the board.
So the main takeaway from all this data is really clear, and it's actually something you can do. One of the most effective dietary tweaks you can make to lower your risk of type 2 diabetes is to just swap that daily glass of juice for an actual piece of whole fruit. Simple as that. Okay, so I can hear you asking, juicing is out, I get it.
But what about blending? What about my daily smoothie? Well, this is where the story takes a really fascinating little twist. Let's talk about smoothies.
It's a totally fair question, right? I mean, you're still using blades to pulverize the fruit, so is a smoothie just thick juice? The answer, surprisingly, is no. The process and the end result are actually quite different.
And this right here is the #1 most important difference. Juicing is a separation process. You take the liquid and you throw away the pulp and the fiber. But blending pulverizes the entire fruit, the skin, the pulp, sometimes even the seeds. The whole shebang goes into the blender and into your cup. So even though the food matrix is broken, all that incredibly important fiber is still there.
But here's where it gets really wild. Some new research is showing that for certain fruits, like berries, blending might have a unique benefit. The powerful blades of a blender can crack open those tiny little seeds in a way that our teeth just can't. And this releases extra fiber and these amazing compounds called polyphenols. These things basically act like a braking system for the sugar, slowing down its absorption so much that you might get a lower blood sugar spike than if you ate the same fruit whole. How cool is that?
So, after digging through all this evidence, from the microscopic food matrix all the way to long-term health studies, what's the final verdict? What's the real, unfiltered takeaway here?
You know, this quote from the scientific literature really just says it all, doesn't it? The way our bodies handle juice is fundamentally and biologically different from how they handle fruit. They're simply not the same thing. They're not interchangeable.
So, here's your simple playbook for making better choices. #1, prioritize whole fruit. It is the undisputed champion, the gold standard. #2, smoothies are a solid second choice. They're a great option that keeps all that important fiber in the mix. And #3, start thinking of juice as a treat, not a daily health drink. Put it in the same category as other sugary beverages.
When it's all said and done, it comes back to that one key idea, the food matrix. Keeping that structure as intact as possible is the name of the game. So, whole is better than blended, and blended is way, way better than juiced.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. We've seen how a simple mechanical process can completely transform a healthy food into something that might actually pose a risk to our metabolic health. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What else in your kitchen has been processed in a way that completely changes its relationship with your body?